Welcome to Right
Talking.
Now. So happy that you have joined us. John, what's
Mayor
up?
Karen, I am super excited to do our first remote Zoom podcast together.
Yes, we were playing with the infinite realm of all possibilities, and we were not in the same place. So we're creating this on Zoom. Welcome to post-COVID times. It's good for something.
And it gives a great jumping off point because the theme I'd love to explore today is Bashar's fifth law, which is change is the only constant. And I was spending a bunch of time at the recent Dr. Joe Cancun retreat pondering on this. And the reason I had the time to ponder was I was just hanging out there with everyone, but I wasn't actually going to the workshop. So it was a whole new experience of getting to be surrounded by people who were there doing the work. But while everyone was doing the work, I was out hanging on the beach, going for a run, taking in all the beautiful amenities of that insane hotel. But what I was kind of realizing as I was talking to everyone and focusing in on the broadest perspective I could take on what's going on at these Dr. Joe workshops, what's going on with Bashar Abraham, within the context of Bashar's fifth law of creation, that change is the only constant, I was realizing that the whole game of awakening and consciousness and spirituality and all of this is simply recognizing that change is suddenly occurring in a preferred direction underneath the direction of each one of us. We were kind of sold an idea growing up that we're victims of the world and things are constantly changing in a non preferred direction. And it seems like the broadest perspective I can take on all this work and all this stuff we're discussing is simply a redirecting to realize I'm the creator of my life and I can make all the change occur in a preferred direction from my personal perspective, and everyone can do the same instead of being a victim of it.
Oh, that's so juicy. It reminds me too of A Course in Miracles, which says like if you are not experiencing what you love or you don't love what you're experiencing, then you are free to choose again. And just in every single moment, what do I prefer to experience right now? Right now, right now. And from that place, kind of claiming your role as a sovereign creator of everything that you experience. I love that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And as we were discussing earlier, Bashar's statement that every second is literally a new second as a frame of creation. You're literally a new being. Everyone else around you is literally new beings, and the reality around you is completely new. And I love when he goes, this is not a philosophy. This is not some sort of euphemism. It's not a statement for you to contemplate. We're literally stating to you the literal structure of existence. Every second is a separate frame of creation, and you're a brand new being. So, as it pertains to anything with addiction, past, non preferred experiences, every second you can decide this is the 0 point, and I'm picking my new focus going forward because the past literally does not matter. And as he says, the past is a creation of the present moment is not a creation of the past, which is
Yeah, that's totally mind blowing. I love that concept. And I've had experiences, well, a couple of different things are coming to mind. One is during my first Dr. Joe week long retreat, during one of the walking meditations, I had this moment where I saw all the timelines kind of stacked and happening at the exact same moment. So there was a future version of me watching the version of me that was walking on the beach and thinking, oh, you're doing the work. Yes, you got this. And then the version of me on the beach was experiencing all the what I was perceiving to be past versions of me in this lifetime. And as I was experiencing those past versions as the me that was on the beach, my heart just exploded with love. And all the choices that I had been judging as wrong or shameful, or, I should have done something else, they all made sense in that moment. And my heart just exploded with love for every single version of me up until that point that had made those choices. And it was, I felt it in every cell of my body. Like, this is truth. Like, everything is happening right now. And also in that moment, I felt my complete oneness with every other person that was walking on the beach, with the ocean, with the sky, with the birds, the trees, the sand. It was the most beautiful, beautiful experience I've ever had. And it was just like this complete surrender and this complete knowing of the truth. So that's one thing that's coming to mind for me. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's exhilarating. I love that idea of being able to perceive multiple timelines or multiple realities simultaneously. I've been experiencing that a lot lately as well, where I'm present in the moment and in the circumstance. And at the same time, my imagination is running and almost overlaying preferred responses from people or preferred circumstantial elements, which I'm not actually observing, but seeing very vividly simultaneously in my imagination. And Neville Goddard talks about the concept. He uses the phrase shears of revision, and he recommends as one technique, one permission slip to do just that in real time as people are saying something to you, revise it. And some people would almost say that's like insanity or stupidity, and all truths are true. So it is insane and stupidity. And from the perspective of creating your own reality, it's a very effective permission slip to use to switch over to that timeline. So, yes.
Yeah, it's fun. Like one question that I use to do something similar is how else could I see this? So it's not necessarily like cutting, like resisting what somebody else is doing. And I'm not saying that's what it is because I'm not positive exactly what you're talking about. I know we've talked about
Yes.
this before, but how else could I see this? And then also asking source, like, help me to see this person through your eyes. Because back to A Course in Miracles, every single thing that somebody does is either an extension of love or a cry for healing. So if somebody is doing something that I don't prefer, most likely they're saying, please love me, love me, love me. And I'm saying, oh no, you're not lovable, right? If I don't prefer it, I'm not accepting them where they are. And
Yes.
if I could get beyond that and see them through the eyes of God or source and just love them no matter what, because everything is lovable, everyone is lovable, all events are neutral. So that's, where I like to practice. And for me, it's practical. How can I see this person through your eyes? How can I extend love to them in a way that they're going to receive it?
That's so beautiful. And I spend time looking at myself, versions of myself who are angry or frustrated, and realizing it was always a cry for love. And if you're in a super, or times when I was in a super angry state or super frustrated, there were a few circumstances where people were so loving to me and kind of were like, I understand, stuff went wrong or whatever, but let's just like take a minute and be okay. And you can just completely release all the energy from it when someone decides not to feed or respond to anger with anger, feeding that loop. They decide to introduce a new emotion, which could even be as simple as taking a break. But sometimes people are powerful enough to literally like accept someone else's anger and say, I see that anger. That's okay. I love you. And you can just, I can in memory go back to those moments and feel like the huge release of relief come over me when someone shows love. And what a powerful capacity we all have to choose to be that love for someone else and allow them to be. I love that example.
Yeah, and if we're doing our work and not taking anything personally, because it's never personal, it's never about
Yes.
us. Like if people are reacting to us, what seems like us, it's not the case. They're reacting to their past, and
Yes.
something was like triggered in them by you. And for me, I see that as a gift. Like you're welcome. Like whatever's being triggered in them by me is significant because it means that they're ready to heal it. They're ready to look at it again. And here's another opportunity that Source is providing you to heal that thing that's been freaking ruling you. And so,
Yes.
like, I mean, I know I'm rude, but sometimes I will say, you're welcome. If people get pissed at me, I'm like, you're welcome. Like, what is it bringing up in you? And I can hold it. Like, most of the time, I'll be like, I can handle this. Like, give me your worst. And just holding that space for someone. I don't need to say a thing. Just let them vent and be seen because anger is a scary emotion for a lot of us. We can't handle it. People get angry. We either get angry or we run or we freeze. I mean, it brings up a lot of shit for us. So when we can actually hold it as the divine, as my divine self, I can hold it and know it has nothing to do with me. It's such a gift for people, and it just dissipates really, really quickly in my experience.
Yeah. I was listening to a really powerful Bashar this morning, or powerful for me, where he was really hammering home the point you can't experience an emotion unless you have an underlying belief or definition about something. And he gives an example like, if I come up to you and call you a squidgeely, or he makes up some word, how do you feel about it? And the lady's like, I have no idea. And he's like, exactly, you have no definition or belief regarding the word. So he really was hammering home the point that when you feel anger or fear or any type of non-preferred emotion, it's a gift to you, showing you you have a belief or definition about this circumstance that's out of alignment. So you have the power right now to own it. Number one, not try to fight it or resist it. Own it. Yes, I must have an out of alignment belief. The fear is showing it to me. And then ask the question, what would I have to believe is true in order to feel this way? And give it a minute to get the response, to really look at what the belief or definition must be. And then take home his other point. The gift of life is that it's utterly meaningless, and we get to define, or as you were saying before, choose a perspective on everything, and choose a new perspective in every second. And kind of like Abraham talks about tuning a guitar, you play with one perspective, then another, to find the one that has the resonance that just feels best. And when you find the best feeling one, say, I choose that one as my new belief, my new definition right now, and go forward with that. And I love that process. It feels so powerful, so empowering.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I had something I was going to say and I totally lost it. So if you have
Maybe
something
we
else.
changed vibes. I love that idea. We talked about that in the last video, and I was seeing it more over the last week. Sometimes I'll be on one train of thought, and I don't know if I brought you down or up, but someone will offer a vibration that's down or up, and I'll follow their vibe. And then whatever I was thinking about, like, it literally completely disappears, because, again, like, memory is created in the present moment. So, based on your current state of being, what you remember, or what was on your mind will completely change. And one of the greatest recognitions I've had in that is when I'm in the greatest states of joy, all the like problems and thoughts of things I was contemplating, big decisions I needed to make, there's none of that when I'm utterly in glee, like having a great time with friends or puppies or a great meal, a walk in the park, something where it's just a delicious, blissful moment. There's none of those elements of lower emotions present, and you see the power in the state of being in the present second, dictating everything that's going on inside your focus.
Yeah, I love that too. It's fun. So one thing I was
Yeah.
thinking about before when you're talking about the still frames and becoming a new person in every moment, all the people that have healed in the Dr. Joe community, they all talk about like, yes, they were doing the work for most people a significant amount of time other than you. You're the only one I know that, like first meditation, like not knowing what you're doing, you healed everything. But most
Yes.
people, they're doing the work for quite a while, but there comes one moment when they get a new body in one meditation, in one moment in that meditation or in healing session where they get a new body and they become someone else. And it's not gradual for all of them. They talk about one moment. And I met a guy at the Denver retreat last year who had, I don't know what stage cancer he had, but he had tumors the size of grapefruits. And he had been doing the work. He was doing chemo. He was very skinny and bald. And he went to the London week long and he was chosen as a healee. And in, I think, the second coherence healing session, his tumors the size of grapefruits disappeared in that session. He had a new body. And I'm like,
Yes.
whoa. And then when I saw him, this was not a year, like 9 months after that, nobody recognized him. Like he was a completely different looking and he was a completely different person. So those moments are happening all around the world to people. And I don't know exactly what it is, but there comes a moment when they're letting go of the result that they want. And they're just so happy, so happy and they're connecting to source and wholeness and truth. And when you are connecting to wholeness and source and truth, there is no other way to be but whole and complete and healthy and one with God. And that version of you does not contain disease, doesn't contain lack, it doesn't contain shame or guilt or unworthiness.
That's awesome. I love those stories. And I'm curious to toss back to you this idea. The most common theme that I've noticed among all those stories of transformation that are on YouTube and Joe's website, and that I've personally witnessed at retreats with Dr. Joe, is the primary focus of those people, or experience of those people when they have those instantaneous healings, is an emotional experience of insane levels of joy or exhilaration or love. Like, whatever the terms you use, I'd say they're all on the top most portion of the emotional scale, where it's all the most beautiful emotions one can experience in life. They have like an epic emotional experience of a very preferred nature, and almost all of them seem to really focus on that, and then be like, as a byproduct of that, all of a sudden my tumors the size of grapefruits disappeared, or all of a sudden I regrew a new thyroid, or all of a sudden. But it's that joy or happiness or love element. And then you realize it's that same thing. It's the idea of like a state of being dictating your body and your circumstance, rather than your circumstance dictating your state of being, which is like the traditional model of reality. So have you noticed that too, that insane emotional state being almost always present when people have those awesome healings?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And Dr. Joe even says that it's like when you become joy, you become the state of your future, however you want to be in the future. You become free and abundant and whatever, joyful, happy for no reason. Then you get a new body because it's not, that doesn't belong in your future.
Yeah, that's very cool. I hear Bashar coming in too, and we've talked on this a little bit before with the frames of reality, but understanding reality and all these frames are almost like TV channels, and each channel has different emotional frequencies and then experiences which match that emotional frequency. So if you use like numbers, for example, channel 1 through 10, one being the lowest non-preferred emotions, they have experiences like war and hatred and things going on that channel. Simultaneously on channel 10, in an exploding joyful emotional state, has things like heaven on earth and unconditional love and all those things. And I love Bashar's perspective in saying, just like, when you're watching channel 10, channel 1 is still being broadcast and available for you to flip to if you want, but you, as the empowered creator, choose the channel you wish to experience. And for me, that understanding frees me from the idea of trying to like the war on hunger, the war on poverty, the war on war. You realize the humor. War can never beget peace, because the focus on war is to feed the idea of war. The focus on peace is to feed the frame of peace, and then shift to that channel. So it kind of frees us all from taking so much responsibility for all that's occurring in reality, and realize all we can do is choose the highest channel, and then be an example to inspire others by being on that channel, rather than fighting the channel we don't prefer. Just choose the channel we do prefer.
That's beautiful. I love that analogy too of the channels because we get it, right? We can wrap our heads around there can be multiple programs on multiple channels simultaneously. And it's exactly that. Which one are you choosing? And I've had that too with TV. Like certain television programs will bring my vibration, my frequency way down, and I don't choose to watch them. Like I don't choose to
Yes.
watch the news because for me it feeds that fear and that lack and scarcity and the non-preferred emotions. So I watch what I watch. I make
Yes.
sure it uplifts me. That's
Yes. And Abraham makes the statement, the biggest conspiracy in all of creation, or in all of the world, is that of well-being. And she's like, think of how many cells in your body are perfectly functioning in every second, even if you have a pain in your knee. So say 1,000 cells in your body are experiencing pain, there's still, I don't know, the estimates on the number of
Trillions,
cells of the human body
trillions.
changes, but trillions, right? So there's still like 999 trillion other cells which are perfectly functioning, and you choose your focus channel 10 where the 99 trillion cells are functioning perfectly, or channel 1 where the 10,000 cells are not. The focus is up to you. It may seem like you don't have the choice, but we all do. And the biggest conspiracy is there's always so much more well-being occurring in the world than there is lack of well-being.
Yes. Yes. And it's that same thing. Like what you focus on expands. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Dr. Joe says it over and over and over. So
Yes.
we are the ones who are responsible for what we allow in. What are we choosing to watch? Who are we choosing to listen to? And we can choose to change our focus or change who we're around. We can change anything, almost anything at any time. We are at
Yes.
choice.
Yes. I love Dr. Joe's quote. A lot of people don't notice it, but I always go back to it. You just gotta want it. Like, you just gotta want to feel peace. You just gotta want to feel joy. It's right there. You just gotta pick it. Like, mm, so
Yeah.
delicious.
It's just like in addiction, they say like people will change when the pain of staying the same is greater than
Mm,
the pain of changing. Because it is
yes.
painful for most people because they choose it to be painful to change. It doesn't have to be. That's a choice too. It's like you're an infinite creator. What do you want? How do you want to experience it? I choose it to be fun and joyful and easy to change
Yes.
sometimes.
That's that's so cool. I love Bashar's focus on the five laws too, where he states his five laws and clearly states anything other than those five laws is a chosen belief, is a chosen perspective, is a chosen opinion. And because reality is a mirror, and basically that's one of the laws, what you put out is what you get back. It means if you choose that as your belief, as your perspective, reality will confirm that that's the way it is for you, because reality is nothing but a mirror for that. So anytime I see something and want to know, wait, is that actually a fact? I'll go back to, is it one of the five laws? And if it's not, then it's changeable and I have the power to choose a new perspective. And the paradox, too, all of those five laws do nothing but confirm that I'm an infinite, indestructible being who has the complete power to choose my own reality experience.
That's a great frame. I think most people could use the guideline because the ego is so tricky. It's so cunning. I love in the Native American culture, they call the ego voice the pretender voices. I think that's
Mm,
brilliant because it's cunning. It's so logical. It uses all these reasons that make perfect sense. And the moment you think you have it figured out, it comes up with something else. So for me, I'm looking at, is this coming from love? Is this voice coming from love? Like if it's trying to protect me, that usually means it's fear. It's fear based, right? If it's coming from love,
yes.
expansion, and extension, an extension of love and of who I am, even if it's scary, because things that I haven't done before are going to be scary. Things that stretch me beyond my comfort zone are going to be scary. That doesn't mean it's
Yes.
not love. And if I pull back, that's the ego voice or the pretender voices. So one thing that I focus on a lot is what I call being a divine mirror. And this touches on, you've used mirror a lot, but for me, that means reflecting the truth of people, like who they are, their essence, their God selves, back to them. Because so many people forget the truth of who they are and they think that they're less than other people or separate from other people or victims of something. And if I can reflect back to them the truth of who they are in a way that they finally get it, I think that is what we're all here for, to keep reflecting that back. And we can do that by choosing a high vibration and to be in truth ourselves. And that takes a lot of stalking of our thoughts. Like we get to constantly watch, okay, is this a belief or is it one of the five laws?
That's so cool. And I love your recognition, like you were saying. if the thought is to protect or pull back from, it can't be love. And I was looking at that for a long time. I used to work in like disaster planning and realized, whoa, I was like literally a fear monger, and not in judgment, but in recognition that of what I was unconsciously doing. I didn't realize what I focused on expanded. I didn't realize that, to like fight war or to fight all the things that can come from disaster is actually to feed them and expand them. But that's like, it took me a while to sit with that idea. When Bashar first presented, I first heard him saying, like, if you take action to protect yourself, what you're doing is validating that there's something to protect yourself from. And since reality is your mirror, it'll say, no problem, let me give you an experience that proved you had to protect yourself from something. But when you totally, or the game I play now, every time I see that idea of protecting myself, I go, you can't be love. And I'm going to take the symbolic action that shows the trust and the complete surrender, to the point with my belief systems allow, but starting to leave stuff more unlocked in certain circumstances. um, and like not prepare, not put money into planning or preparing or buying things for disaster and things like that, because it's validating as a symbol of action the reality the mirror thinks I prefer, because I'm acting towards that when in fact I don't. So letting it go. And that's really cool to see. Love is always a running towards for me. It's always like a surrender and opening. It's never a protecting back or a running away from. And that's a huge distinction.
Yeah. And do you think that if you prepare for things like a disaster, do you think that you're not trusting your own ability to create in the moment, or you're not trusting source?
Absolutely. Or, I mean, I can choose so many different perspectives on it. I feel like source or the mirror or the other half of me, whatever reality is saying, oh, cool, I see this guy preparing for disaster. He creates his own reality. He wants a disaster. Let's give him a disaster because he's exciting. Where awareness goes, energy flows. What you focus on expands. So the mirror is like, no problem. I love you unconditionally. You're excited preparing for a disaster. Let me give you one. Um, so I see those actions as so symbolic of what I prefer in my future, and being very aware of the action I'm taking. And even like you were saying, some things I've never done before, like completely be unprepared for certain things, or even like this podcast. We go into this podcast completely unprepared, or I do. I'll take 5 or 10 minutes ahead of time and pre-pave the emotional experience I prefer to have, but place no preparation on topics or awareness of anything like that. And I have the most exhilarating time just being present in the moment. And I make that a symbol of trusting that everything's just going to completely unfold, rather than preparing in fear. Although you could prepare in joy. Like, no matter how many perspectives I choose, I always see 100 positive alternative perspectives too.
Yes. I believe, well, you know how my theory is on speaking. Like, I believe I just connect to God, to source. And if when I'm present in the moment and I'm trusting that what I have to say, or what, it's not even me per se, what's coming through me will serve someone, it always comes out way better than I could have possibly done it. Like, I'm not that smart. And it's that I've practiced allowing source through me. That's it. And what you said
Yes.
something earlier about, like, you're preparing for a disaster, so source gives you a disaster. And that reminds me of the choose again theory or choice. So you've prepared for a disaster, you got a disaster, and you decide you don't prefer it. You can choose again in that
Yes.
moment, and the disaster will be averted. You'll get like totally different circumstances. It's so
Yeah.
much fun to play with this stuff.
Yes. And I see a lot of the Eastern people that I explored really harp on the idea of like surrender, surrender. And you realize, oh, if reality is a mirror and like preparing for disaster is to call it towards you, surrender, which is walking into every moment in blind trust that whatever's going to happen is going to be to my greatest benefit, is almost like the other side of that stick of disaster, where I could see reality then reflecting back to you, heaven on earth or peace. You're deciding every second everything's all right, don't need to prepare for anything, walk in with no protection, no thought of the next section, or the next minute like ready to embrace whatever is. Reality is like, no problem, let me give you people and circumstances with which prove that is reality for you.
Mm. Yes,
Mm.
so much fun.
Yes.
I'm so glad we get to talk about this stuff. It's just every time we have these conversations, I feel so expanded. And I was talking to somebody else who has a podcast, and I'm like, whenever I'm in a bad mood, I listen to my own podcast. Does that make me a narcissist? Because because it brings me back to that vibration of expansion and of unlimitedness.
Yes. And maybe it's a little dicey, but let's go there. The term narcissist, I realize I can like pick up two different glasses through which to like perceive narcissist, and everyone probably has slightly different definition. I would define narcissist as self-love, basically at its core. There may be like a million ancillary elements to it, or maybe self-love over love of another, maybe choosing yourself first. And I could pick up two lenses, but I can find a loving lens through which to view that idea. And that idea basically is choosing my own alignment over someone else telling me you need to pick my vibrational state or pay more attention to something else I don't prefer in my reality. And yeah, so I really see power in reframing that whole idea too. And so
Yeah.
I think it's great if you can inspire yourself, which is what you're doing by watching yourself. I mean, imagine if everyone was self-inspired. That's
Yeah.
complete wholeness.
Well, I don't, I, I should know better than to use that term around you because you will put it in that way. But, but psychologically, the term narcissist is somebody who also lacks empathy, who doesn't care about other people. So
Hmm.
it's not only putting their own needs or perceived needs above others. For me, it is the most extreme form of self-hatred. That's what I believe it to be. And when they believe that they are so unlovable that every single thing they need that affirmation from the outside to feel like
Yes.
they're worth anything. And the moment they don't get it, the moment they don't get that hit, they explode. And, there's a lot of really destructive tactics that are used. So, I mean, I've had a lot of clients that have been in narcissistic relationships. I've been in them, and it is not self-love from what I've seen. So, not that term. You can pick a different one.
Yeah. No, and that's cool. And defined with those terms, I totally understand that perspective. And it comes back to that idea we've touched on a little bit before, realizing that like no two people identically define the same term in the exact same way because everyone's had so many unique experiences. So it's really cool to realize sometimes you think you're like comparing oranges to oranges and you're not. It's almost impossible. Even if each person were to write like 1,000 word definition, it still like would never perfectly match up. So
That's so true. And I
yes,
think that's one of a good basis of communication is to ask people to expand on what they mean instead of assuming what they mean by certain terms. Because, like you said,
yes,
nobody has the same definition. And people will be like, "What, are you stupid?" I'm like, "No, I just really want to understand what you mean by that because I know what it means to
yes.
me, but I'm sure there's some nuance to it from your perspective."
Yeah, and especially having been in like an experience like that before, like I don't think I've ever experienced a relationship really significantly like that before. So I actually have like no real basis to even go back to. And that was an interesting realization I had too, as it pertains to the idea of giving advice to others. I realized I like looked at myself and I was like, am I 100% my absolute best self, like in every possible way? And if I wouldn't say anything other than yes, which I don't know if I would, then I would say, like, on what grounds do I have to give advice to someone else unless I am like exactly who they prefer to be in the exact way they prefer to be it? I love the idea, like you were talking about earlier, and being able to like reflect to them their truths and kind of leverage and grow through that. But in terms of giving advice, I was realizing like I don't think I can ever actually give advice, and being the mirror is maybe the most helpful way I could navigate those
Yeah.
things.
I don't think advice is helpful. I think people ask for it because they want to not be responsible for their choices and for the results. What I think is most helpful is to be unattached and to ask people questions, because I believe everybody has all of the answers within them. I don't have anybody else's answers. I know what
Yes.
worked for me, but will that work for them? Hell no. Like, probably not. They're not me. They're not. I mean, they are in one sense, right? But they're not. So they are the only ones who have their answers. So I think the most helpful thing we can do is ask them questions and find out what it is that they want. What do they want to experience? What do they prefer? And what are they afraid of experiencing? And just talking that stuff out gives them clarity. They don't need advice. They need somebody to ask them questions to come up with their own advice, because they already have all their answers. They're just hidden belief, but beneath a bunch of beliefs.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. Sweet. And it kind of comes full circle back to that beginning topic. Change is constant. It's that focus. Are you focusing in on the change in a direction you prefer, recognizing yourself as the creator of it through your focus, or are you doing something else?
Yeah. And I also love, I use this quote a lot because it makes so much sense. It's Einstein. You can't solve a problem from the same level of
Mm,
consciousness that created it. We need
yes.
one another. We are not meant to come up with all our own answers, even though they are within us. Sometimes we get to ask for support. What? What's that like? Like, ask somebody, hey, I'm stuck and I know I have the answers within me. I know that in my head, but I'm not able to access them. Could you hold space for me? Could you ask me some questions to evoke those answers from within me? Or maybe you need to purge. Maybe you just need to get out all the negative stuff that society told you not to talk about, because then you're going to create it. It's like sometimes you just need to purge so that you can make space for the truth to come out.
Yeah, that's so cool. It ties in. I see that tying into a broader perspective that Bashar talks about, which is recognizing your beliefs and then using permission slips sometimes that fall within the realm of your beliefs. Like sometimes the path of least resistance might be taking medicine for some illness you have. Do you recognize, like, I am an empowered, indestructible being? Yes. Are my beliefs at a level where I can instantaneously heal myself, or is my emotional state at a level where I can do that? Maybe recognizing, maybe not. So leveraging a pill or leveraging like a coach or a person to support you, a person who's done something you're excited to do before, is the most effective path, the path of least resistance towards that preferred direction of change. So that's really cool to see. I went through a period for a while and I'm circling back now, but I was realizing, wow, I'm fully empowered. I don't need anything or anyone. And going all alone on things. And then paradoxically, now I'm circling back and be like, wait a minute, I see the power in working with a coach on certain things because they've done things that I'm excited to do, or even simple medications for things. So yes.
Mm, totally. I mean, there's a saying, I don't know that I get it totally, but it's, if you want to go further, go alone. If you want to go faster, go with others.
Hmm.
I don't know that I totally get it, but like, you can go very far by yourself, but it's not going to be as rich because we need other perspectives.
Yeah. Oh, I love that quote. And actually, this 4 minute mile thing is always hot on my mind. And I see it that way in whatever year we talked about this on the last episode. All doctors said, nope, impossible for the human heart to run a 4 minute mile, it'll explode. And some person decided to go alone and believed in the possibility that they could break a 4 minute mile. And they went alone through that barrier and did it. And as soon as they did it, then all of a sudden, X number of people were able to do it in that same year. And I can see that now. They went together after someone already broke the barrier. Then a bunch of people could go faster following that path that someone else already laid down to that exact same point that they were excited to do. So I see huge power. I love that quote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. I just think, so many of us didn't get our needs met growing up, and we learned to do things by ourselves because if we asked for help, in my case, I would be called weak, or I would be said, I would be told, no, no, I won't help you figure it out. And so I stopped asking for help. And then I made up that I wasn't worthy of support.
Mm.
So as an adult, it is still like challenging sometimes for me to ask for support or to even remember. And I have a good friend who's a coach. That's what she does for a living. And I keep telling her, like, if you ever need support, please reach out. And she's like, I never even think to do it. It never crosses my mind. And yesterday she actually called me. She's like, Jeff, do you have capacity to support me? I said, yes, finally, you're here. And then I saw her, or actually, that was Monday, and I saw her the next day, and she's like, great. She just needed somebody to listen. She had all of her answers, but she got to have somebody support her for a change when she supports everyone else.
That's beautiful. It's so kind to hold space like that.
Yes. Feeling
I'm
good?
flying, feeling amazing.
Awesome. So we need an end shot.
Yeah. Do we both lean in? Which side of the screen are you on?
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to record. We can't lean in.
I'm gonna
We'll just,
paste it together. Double piece. Wait, maybe we can hold hands. I'm gonna glue them together.
which side are you on? You're on this side for me.
Perfect. We'll
I
do it both ways, and one way it'll work out.
think if
I'll
somebody's
do a little puppet.
if somebody's listening only, they're going to think, what is all this dead air time? We're trying to find some pose for our YouTube channel, for our end
That's how we.
screen or beginning
That's how
screen.
we. Yeah, we'll draw all the podcast listeners over to the YouTube channel so they can see us, see how beautiful we are.
They can see how silly we are, especially when we're together with your no pants sign or pants optional. Pants
Pants
optional.
optional.
Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening to Right
Booking.
Now. We'll see you next time.
Peace. Bye, everybody.
Bye.